Over the last few years, I've been experimenting and growing different vegetables. And this year, I wanted to organize my summer vegetable garden so that I can maximize the use of this very limited space that I have that gets a lot of sun. And so, in order to provide the most surface area along which I can grow these plants, I've created this trellis system. And in the next several minutes after this, I'll go over how I'm utilizing this to be able to grow the different vegetables that I'm doing, and also to be able to show you what I did to build this structure, so that this way you can gain an insight on what you can do to apply some of the stuff or all of it to your garden as well. The setup that I have here allows me to break up my growing surfaces into four primary areas. We've got part A and D, which is combined together. Basically, it's a 6x6 welded wire fabric that I've applied to the back surface in the middle. We've got an 8-foot recessed area in the fence that I'm going to take advantage of and allow vines to grow up that area. And depending on what I'm growing, initially I'm going to be growing bitter melon, and they grow very aggressively. I'm hoping that they will go up, and then I will train them to go onto the top trellis. The top trellis also adds to the lateral stability of the structure here. Then I've got the 6 lines of tomato lines that I've got. I've got 3 on the right-hand side and 3 on the left-hand side. I've shaded a red outlined a rectangle which kind of shows you the growing surface that each one of these vertical supports creates. And so I've got 3 on the right hand side and 3 on the left hand side. On the 2 rightmost sides, I'm going to test out the Florida weave system. And then on the other 4 lines, I plan on trying out the hanging vertical growth style, where we're going to be trimming out the suckers and just growing them along a single lead. And once they reach 8 foot, then I'm simply going to unhook them from the top and then move them a foot over so that the plants can continue growing. All right, and then that leaves us with the center area, and I've got 4 lines along which I can grow peppers, eggplants, bell peppers, anything else that I'd like to try to grow. So this in total gives me approximately 450 square feet of growing surfaces, and then another 100 square foot of support area, for example, at the top, which allows for the growth to grow onto. So about 560 square feet altogether. Give you an idea of what the dimensions are. We've got 2 spaces on the left-hand side and 2 spaces on the right-hand side that are 24 inches apart. We've got an approximate 8 feet in the center. The vertical supports, the vertical surfaces that the tomatoes are going to grow along are 8 foot tall. So we've got an 8 foot tall section there. And then we're about 5.5 feet deep. The top trellis sticks out about 2.5 feet from the front face. And that's basically it. Just to kind of quickly go over the cost, on the right-hand side of this screen, you should be able to see that I've got all of the material tabulated, including the paint and some wire and rope that I had to buy to make the system work. So all in all, I'm at about $108. Since I have the paint and some of the other stuff, so I may be actually about $80 out on this thing. And as I mentioned earlier on, the square footage that I'm getting out of this in terms of surface area is about 550 square feet. That boils down to approximately 20 cents a square foot, or if you're looking at a 4x8 sheet of fabric, a trellis system, this is about $6.13. So the beauty about this system is that it allows me to be able to manipulate it so that I can apply it to whatever I'm doing in this area, and gives me flexibility to make changes, and gives me flexibility on what I grow over there.
So what I'm able to use here is an 8-foot 1x2, then another 8-foot piece that gets trimmed at about 6 feet wide, and then the remaining part comes down and it just goes ahead and attaches at the fence post. So in this fashion, I'll put some hooks on the wall, and I'll be able to do the Florida weave, or I would be able to also do the hanging method, depending on how these things grow and what I feel like doing. Maybe I'll do a combination of the two to show you what the two systems look like. 1x2 stakes that are 2 feet long. I've got about 7 inches sticking out here. This is what I'm going to be doing from now on. The first two I did with about a foot sticking out and a foot in. They are a little bit more wobblier than my 7-inch ones that are sticking out. So definitely sticking with the 7-inch. I'm using the strong axis of the 1x2 so that when we are weaving, going up every 1 foot up the thing, I don't want to see any bowing that's going to happen. And so since this is 8 foot tall, if you did it in the short direction, in the weak axis direction, then you'd pretty much have that issue of bowing. The other thing to keep in mind when you're driving these stakes in, you want to make sure in the X and Y plane you are going vertical. So use a small hand level to accomplish that. You get it as plumb as you can. And then basically I am using screws on the back side. You can see that screw, and then perhaps you can see the bottom screw right there. These are a lot easier to put in when your plants are a lot smaller. So definitely I would say plan ahead and get these things in before you actually go in and plant, because now I've got to bend this plant out of the way in order for me to drill it in. And so I mean, it seems pretty extreme at sometimes. So that's the bottom support. Then up here along the fence, I'm simply screwing in to the fence board itself, and then at the top I am screwing in from the ends, at the top here in a similar fashion. Let me show you what it looks like. Here we're screwing into the back side of the 1x2, and then screwing in. Here we're using a 3-inch long screw at the fence, and then down at the base I'm using 2-inch long screws. I've got basically some clamping jigs that I've set up so that the wood I know is a certain distance from the top. I'll go over that a little bit in a second. So I'm going to basically drill a pilot hole from this end, and we're going to go into this wood with a 3-inch screw. And then on this side I have gone in with just some 1.5 inch or 2-inch long screws that I've put in here. I've used 2 on this side, but I'm primarily using 1 3-inch on this side just because it is a lot deeper. As you've noticed, I've kept this down a certain distance. Basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to achieve a level surface across the all 3 of them. And so the ground here slopes. I figured out what that slope is, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maintain all of the top pieces a certain distance from the top piece. I would have gone right to the top, this way I wouldn't have an issue, and then what I would do is raise the bottom so that the tops would be level. But I kind of was running out of material, so I want a certain amount of overlap on that wood post, so I've had to compromise a little bit on the top. But in your case, if you have a longer piece on this side, then you can pretty much keep them flat on top. So the top varies. So basically I've got the rows at about 2 feet apart, so I'm about a 1/4 inch drop every time I come this way. So I'm keeping the tops 1/4 inch higher as I'm going from this wood to the next one that I'm building on the ground right now. So that top measures 3¼ inches. This currently measures at 3 inches. I think this is a little bit more detail than that's necessary, but I just kind of wanted to show you what my setup is. I've got this rigged up where it's just sitting on the ground, and then I've gone ahead and clamped it to the wall over there. Those corners are still clamped. I did not actually drill a hole, just wanted to verify that the thing was level. I've put my level across the top, and I had to adjust the back support down a bit, and then I ended up having to push this portion up. So now we've got the level across the top, and I just want to zoom in and show you. You can see right there the bubble is in the center, and right there as well. I've changed the direction of the level so that I can show you that everything is level. You can see right here and here. The next thing would be to drill our hole, pilot hole, and then drive that 3-inch screw all the way. Once this is done, the next step would be to attach it to the fence over there. For that, though, we do want to make sure that everything is lined up, and so for that we'll have to step backwards. Here, let me just show you what that kind of entails. So as you can see, you stand right here, you can see the center support on the back side for the middle one is right behind. When we stand in front of this one, the support for this first one is there too. And then once we square ourselves with this one, we just want to make sure that the rear support is square. It doesn't have to be dead on, but it's an aesthetics thing, but you don't want to be too off either. So I feel like this is a little off, and so I've got the fence marked. What I'll do is I'll run the line up to that spot, and I'll know exactly where to put it. So this is a little bit more of a complicated process that I'm doing, but if you were to build a U on the ground yourself, you would not be doing a lot of this. Okay, so I am done putting that piece of wood across the top to laterally tie and keep the spacing here the same. And what I will try to do is show you me shaking this. It is pretty stiff. I don't know if you can see. Yes, you should be able to see this. I'm moving it quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and skip the lateral brace that I was going to do on a diagonal. So this is good enough. I've gone ahead and done this on this side as well. And as you can see, you know, the top is done so that it keeps the spacing at the bottom the same. And so we are done with setting up our structure here that I will use to either use the Florida weave system or basically use the hanging system. What I have done here is added in again 1x2 slats. I ended up putting a 1x2 across, and then I ended up putting another one halfway across, join them in the middle, and then these 1x2s are slid underneath this cross beam, but they're sitting on top of this cross beam, and I've got about a 30-inch cantilever. I'm not done yet completely building this out. I will make some adjustments where I'm going to close off the ends at this location right here, and the other adjustment that I'm going to do here is this front portion is hanging low. It's deflected about a ½ an inch already, and so what I'm going to do is I will stake this up and raise it so that I've got a 1/4 inch camber. In other words, it's a 1/4 inch higher than 0. And then what I'll do is I will add another beam to the bottom of this and tie the beam together using screws that go vertically in the middle area right here. Perhaps 2 in the middle, 1 in this bay and 1 in this bay, and then attach it to the back side of this post in the same fashion as that is tied. like that with the 2 screws. And then the same thing will be done on the other side. And what I hope to get from this is this will end up being a net 0 deflection. Just to show you what the connection looks like at this top junction, we've got the bottom beam coming in. I've got the 2 screws here. This top strap on the inside has 2 screws in. Kind of helps provide lateral stability, otherwise it would be free to spin. Then this piece right here that we added at the end of this 30-inch trellis comes through here, and here I am using a 3-inch tall screw, so basically goes through here, and into here. And what you do want to make sure is always pre-drill every single thing. As you can see, this is not a nice job. It's split. The pre-drilling went through here, and the drill was not tall enough for me to be able to get into here. So keep in mind, you want to pre-drill things because you want it to last, and so you will make sure that you get this thing pre-drilled so that nothing ends up cracking on you. So that's what this top connection looks like. So in this junction, we look at the other end, and I told you that I ended up splitting the wood right here. To avoid that problem, I drilled not only from the top down to as far as I could, but I also drilled from the bottom up. This way we make sure that we do not end up cracking this lower piece. So that screw set in just perfectly fine without any cracks. This is the top member that I talked to you of down below, which is kind of lapped together right there. I've got another piece in here. That's because this piece ended up bowing, and so I had to straighten it out, and it cracked at this joint. So I've got this as just an extension on the back side, basically connecting the 2 pieces together. The top piece is attached from the top. Basically you clamp the 2 pieces together, and I am using a 3-inch tall screw, or actually it's 2.5 inches tall, and basically connecting these 2 together. Here I'm only using 1 because I already know that this frame is rigid in both directions, and this was just added to help me stabilize the middle portion of this extension that I'm adding to the top. This side of the trellis up against welded wire fabric, basically I would have added another cross member just like I did over here. However, I'm taking advantage of this. I've inserted a screw at the end of the piece of wood on an angle, and I slipped it behind this top wire. It slipped right behind the top wire, and then I use basically wire to tie around it. So I tie a loop down below, then I tie a loop on top, and then basically go over the top, and I come right back down, if I can get the right angle here, and I tie back to the wire mesh. Did something similar on this side. You can probably see it a little better right there. Basically tying it to the welded wire fabric. It just happened to be that the bottom of this mesh happens to be the bottom of the 1x2s on that side. So it's kind of worked out. And if it didn't, I would simply still tie it to the vertical members wherever it was. And it doesn't really matter if this portion of the thing is not level. It's just something that most people will not see, but I would have seen it. So it just happens, like I said, it just worked out perfectly. You can see right there where I've got the welded wire mesh going behind the wood, and it's literally lined up with the bottom of my 1x2s. Here I just wanted to show you the screw is installed from the bottom. The face, the crack has disappeared. So basically I ended up drilling on an angle, then clamping this surface down together, so that it closed up the gap, and then you install the screw. That's basically it. Okay, so I've got the middle beam kind of mocked up there. I ended up clamping the two ends, and what I did is I clamped in the middle where I'm going to be adding the screws that you can see that are hanging in from underneath. I've got my vertical brace installed. I picked the beam up as much as I could, clamped it at the top, and then ended up lifting the bottom and getting it up. So I am at a 1/4 inch camber. In other words, I am at 1/4 inch higher than zero, and that piece of wood is about a 1/4 inch underneath. So after getting it level at zero, I lifted it up, stuck that piece of wood in, so I know I've got a positive camber. I'm going to go ahead and get these screws in. That'll help lock the beams together, and then when we do pull this out, it will not let the two surfaces slip. In other words, it'll hold it, and it's going to drop by a 1/4 inch. I already did a dry mock-up. After that, I then went ahead and finished the piece of wood with my the coating that I have, and after that, I'm now reinstalling it right here. Okay, so we've got the bottom beam installed, and just got to level up here to kind of show you that it is dead on. This is the center, and it's dead on center almost right there. Forgot to record the video component where I was showing you how easy it was to deflect this. Right now I'm putting quite a bit of force and it's not deflecting. You can kind of see that from the bottom of that. There's not much of a deflection, so it's going to be level for a very long time. So that's basically it on installing the front beam and the new cantilevered portion of this trellis.
I hope that I'm able to demonstrate through this video how you can also go about building your own custom trellis that can serve many purposes. So you don't necessarily need to build a certain style or one style of trellis. It can be a combination of many things and many materials, as you can see, and it can really be customized to what you're growing and your specific area in what you're growing as well. So I just want to take this time to thank you for watching through the video, and if you've got any questions, please ask me down below, or you've got any comments, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them in a timely fashion. Thank you for watching. Please help me out by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel.